Hello, this is the personal blog of Alsu Tuktamisheva, and today we will talk about what you can do to learn English with pleasure and have fun. I know sometimes learning the language can be quite frustrating, boring, or you have to force yourself to really sit down and study the language. Today, I'll share with you several practical suggestions that you can take away and start doing right now from today to enjoy the process of learning English. So, number one, I'll recommend that you start with listening activities. Write down 3 or 5 activities from your personal or professional life that you enjoy most. For instance, my brother likes playing and watching soccer games, communications, and Java or programming. So when he really struggled to learn the English language, in fact, he tried many times, and every time he stopped because he just found it quite boring. So the last time we learned the English language with him, I did the following. We actually watched soccer games or excerpts, small parts of soccer games, and he really enjoyed parroting or emulating soccer commentators, learning the vocabulary, and actually listening not only the part of the soccer game that we were studying, but actually the entire game in the English language. Imagine something like Alvarez, here is McAllister, Di Maria is the spearman, Di Maria, glorious goal, Argentine gold. This is an excerpt from the last World Cup game. So there are many fun videos and podcasts and Nobel Prize speeches, maybe presidential debates or speeches, anything that you like. You just find the video, find if they really actually have a slow down option. Maybe you can reduce the speed and watch it not with a normal but 0.75 or 0.5 speed. That way you can actually catch and understand more vocabulary and better comprehend what it's talked about. Also, another suggestion would be to check if there are any subtitles, or you can turn on automatic subtitles. They can be of great help too. So, listening and enjoying what you're doing. Even myself, when I was trying to find a really cool excerpt from the World Cup, I watched so many more excerpts, and it is really so much fun. Second, speaking. I call this strategy a stream of consciousness alive strategy. Why? Because basically you say out loud whatever is in your mind. And I know that we have so many different thoughts, and sometimes they're so complex, but I suggest that you simplify them. Basically, imagine that you are telling what you're thinking about to a 5-year-old child, and it will be something like, you wake up, oh, I want to sleep, I want to doze off, okay, let's get up. Where is my brush? Oh, that tooth over here really hurts, I must go and see a dentist. Maybe a cup of coffee will be a good idea. So basically, whatever comes to your mind, you say out loud. You can also use this strategy when you go somewhere. It can be by car, by bike, or if you take a public transport. Just describe out loud whatever you are looking at. These can be people, their reactions, conversations, maybe weather, or describe whatever you are seeing right in front of you. And make sure that you do that no more than 5 minutes, otherwise your brain will explode because it's so much hard work. And if you have time, keep a notepad, a tiny notepad, and write down afterwards the words that you really wanted to say but you couldn't remember, or you didn't know how to say that in the English language. After that practice, write these words down in your native language and then translate these words into English. And next time, you will for sure remember and use these words. This is a really cool tool to both learn the language, practice the speaking, and also improve your vocabulary, because this is the vocabulary in context. Second, it's also the vocabulary that you really need and want to use. That means that you will more likely use these words in your future speech. And ultimately, this is emotional. And research says that when you're emotional and learning something, you remember that much faster, and it stays with you for longer. So, for speaking, stream of consciousness. 3. Reading. For reading, I would recommend you to start with comic books. Have you ever thought about that? Comic books are a really fun and entertaining way to develop your reading skills. First of all, they have pictures, and pictures can really help you to understand the context if you don't know all the vocabulary. Second, they have much less text, so you will get through the book much faster and feel much more proud that you have already finished a book. Third, comic books can be read online or you can have a hard copy. So there are so many apps and so many possibilities to actually have access to comic books anywhere. Another great strategy is to read with a pen. What does that mean? You basically, if you use a hard copy of the book, you actually take a pen and actually communicate with the author of the text and ask questions, leave a comment, or just reflect upon something. If you use an electronic copy, you can use a stylus or a digital pen where you can do the same. What kind of questions or comments can you ask? For example, recently I was rereading a book about the life of Steve Jobs, and I asked tons of questions in the margins and left many comments. For instance, what would I do if I were him? How would I feel if I was fired from the company that I started? I felt exactly the same way when I talked with a friend about my new idea. And just many thoughts, whatever comes to mind. This is a really helpful tool to work on the text, to develop your reading comprehension, develop your summarizing skills, and along the way, improve your critical thinking skills. All these skills are very important when you are learning to read in the English language. And of course, it's much more fun when you are getting inspired, when you are getting motivated to do something along the way. So now, on to writing. I believe that the most enjoyable process of developing writing skills in the foreign language is actually dating websites or websites where you can meet new people to befriend them. I myself, early in 2000, learned Spanish language that way. I used the ICQ Messenger platform to chat with boys from Central and South America, from Spain, and it was really fun. In this case, you are totally okay making mistakes. It's normal that you don't speak and write perfect in the language. You can look up some words that you don't know as you are chatting, or you can leave longer messages via email. Again, have time for that. You have a clear goal, you have specific audience, you talk about things that you enjoy, and you can ask questions, you can comment on something. And sometimes it's instantaneous, or it can be also so-called asynchronous, where you leave a message and the person gets back to you afterwards. So even if you don't want to date someone, you can certainly write down in your profile that you just want to practice your skills or find a friend. And you can travel around the world meeting these people. You can learn new things, increase your knowledge of culture, and just improve your writing skills in a very positive and very pleasurable way. So the last suggestion that I want to give is about pronunciation skills. And the best way that I find, and the quickest and the funniest way to develop your pronunciation skills, is to actually say tongue twisters. They are super short. It will take you 1 or 2 minutes, 2 minutes a day to develop these skills. And there are tongue twisters that focus on a variety of different sounds, vowels and consonants, and a combination of different vowels or consonants. So go ahead and just practice. For instance, you can say something like, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He would chuck, he would as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck chuck wood. So I find that very humorous. Ultimately, there is one last suggestion that I want to give you that encompasses all of the skills that you can learn. But the caveat is that it will take much more time than all the other suggestions. For these tasks, you will need to set aside at least an hour, or better 2 hours, to really dig deep and develop all the skills that I've just talked about. So the strategy is to watch on YouTube, a TED Talk, or any other platform an entire speech which has a transcript for it. For instance, you can watch J.K. Rowling's speech at the graduation ceremony of the students in England. I believe it was Oxford. And as you're watching it, first you just watch it and try to understand the main idea. The second time you watch it, you can watch it and read along the transcript. That way you are developing your listening and reading skills at the same time. As you are reading, you can highlight the words or phrases that you don't understand and you want to look up in the dictionary. That's your vocabulary development. Make sure that you don't underline too many words. Focus mainly on verbs and nouns or subjects and verbs. This will help you to get the main idea or the gist of the sentence much easier. Next, once you have done your reading, you can look up the words, do the translation, and if it's a TED Talk or a YouTube or any other platform that allows commentary, you can write down your impressions about that speech. And using the new vocabulary that you've learned, the information that you studied from the video, you can write actually your own authentic commentary. It can be a summary, it can be your opinion, it can be a question, it can be anything that you want. You can also read through the other people's comments and engage in a dialogue with someone on this topic. And ultimately, if you have time, you can listen to it for the third time, actually to listen and say the text out loud as the person is saying and develop your pronunciation, fluency, coherence skills in the English language. For these tasks, I would just recommend you that you find a video that really interests you, something that you would stay motivated to listen over and over again. And for that, just Google the success stories or how to get famous or any other question that really intrigues your mind, and that will do. This is all for today. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, press like. See you soon. Bye now.